Hey, you, right there, if you've got this guy, the new Transformers Legacy Evolution Skyquake, and you've been thinking, hey, I'm having some issues with the transformation, maybe I should cut the little notch behind his head, maybe I should cut the landing gear. Do not do that, and I'll explain why when we look at everything to do with this guy in the latest GotBot True review. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And this is the new, as I mentioned, Skyquake, and we are going to be looking at this guy. He is glorious. It's not a clear-cut story with this guy, because there's actually like a lot of things to consider with him, but one of the biggest is his method of transformation. If you follow the instructions, and honestly the instructions are pretty good, I'll probably mention it as we go through. If you follow the instructions, you'll get to robot mode, but it won't be quite right, and I'm not sure if it's that the instructions don't show it clearly, or the instructions are missing a step, or what. The order of operations, super duper important here. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we come back. For now, how about we head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. And just as a reminder, do not, please, do not cut your Skyquake until you've gotten to the end of this, tried something yourself, then see if you need to do it to make the transformation work properly. We're doing things ever so slightly different here. Normally I have everything here to start us off, but we are right away on the packaging because I have a specific way that I want to start things off when we get to Skyquake. In terms of the packaging, here he is holding his sword, looking pretty fantastic on the front in robot mode and in his plain mode up here. Over here, a close-up of his face, very Transformers Prime-esque face. Honestly, let's see if I can, there we go. Yes, he has a nose, but it's covered by the crest and the thin mouth. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good face for the character, the plane down here. Naturally, we have our typical evolution stuff over here, and on the back, as you might have already guessed, we have the images in both modes, as well as him combined with Needle Nose and the Evo Fusion, which is basically just taking his big, like, double-handled Gatling gun blaster thing and folding the sword in half and basically putting it up into the end of the blaster. So nothing special. And so here we have the sword. It's folded in half. There is a little notch there you can put your fingernail or whatever into. It folds out. I'll probably never use this, but hey, it's a nice amber for what it's worth. Here we have the underslung Gatling gun thing. The other handle comes up here, so he would hold it like underslung and up top. This is a ball peg, or ball joint, so it moves all around. Underneath here is very, very hollow, but that's because you're supposed to, you know, insert that there for Evo Fusion, if you like that sort of thing. We have a gigantic two-sided sheet of instructions, and like, honestly, they're good instructions. The only problem is, if you follow them to the T, to the letter, then you're probably going to encounter a problem. I'm not sure if it's that the instructions kind of skip a step, or if they don't make it clear enough. Don't worry, we're gonna figure this out together. And so finally, this is where we begin with Skyquake connected to Needle Nose. Naturally, this is expected to be a pre-tool for a possible G2 Dreadwing. For those who don't know, I want to say it was a BotCon, or maybe it was the Collector Club. I want to say it was like the Transformers 2010 line, actually. Had a version of Dreadwing. Now, we had the original Dreadwing in G2 way back when. We had the Stealth Bomber Deluxe Class Megatron repaint in the Generations line in 2013. But in 2010, we had a version of Dreadwing with his smaller partner, like the drone robot, Smokescreen, I believe his name is, and they connect together much like this. So I wouldn't be shocked if, I don't know, in an exclusive line or in selects or something like that, if we had a reuse of this guy and this guy as Smokescreen and Dreadwing. Or we could use the Skyquake mold as a version of G1 Skyquake. Again, it would take some recoloring and whatnot, but you could do it. I don't know if that's as popular as this coloration, because this guy actually appeared in the Prime TV show, as where the G1 version is the leader of the Predators, if I'm not mistaken, but he doesn't have a lot of fiction, some comic book stuff. Or, and I think this one probably would have some traction in selects. I feel like that this would be up selects alley. This could also be reused and redone as a version of either Starscream, which I think could work, or there is precedence for a Skyquake mold, the original Skyquake mold at that, to be used as a version of Megaplex from Machine Wars. So Machine Wars Starscream or Machine Wars Megaplex. I could see both, honestly. I could see an argument for both, because the Starscream was a reuse of the G1 Predator version of Skyquake, and the, I want to say 2013 BotCon box set of Machine Wars had a version of Megaplex, who is a clone of Megatron, be a version of this as well. So we could get a number of characters out of this. Who knew? And of course we could get a repaint as his brother, Dreadwing. I wouldn't be shocked by any of that. We're going to remove this guy for now because, well, we don't need him right now. And before I do any of the scores, we're going to do the transformation. And I'm going to tell you now that the transformation is very good, very interesting. This guy's going to score well, but you need to pay attention, and the order of operations really matters. By the way, I will also note that we do have the Gatling gun blaster thing and the sword in down here. If we put down all of the landing gear, yes, that's fine. There's almost no clearance there, but it works just fine. I'm going to take this off because we kind of don't need it right now. Now, we're probably going to do this in a couple of stages, if I'm being perfectly honest, just because it's the easiest way to do things. Plus, without our boy on top there, I should also note that these wings can indeed come up for what that's worth. That's up to you if you want them there. Very clean plane. Really super clean plane. Anybody wondering, is this a real plane? In Transformers Prime, Skyquake scanned his mode when Fowler showed up like in a high-tech military plane, so this is probably based on your typical fighter jets, but with some souped up bits and pieces as well. Okay, so for the transformation, let's get things started. We put those wings down first. Then we're going to fold up the landing gear there, and fold in this landing gear. This is going to be very interesting. There's a specific way to do it. A lot of people have been cutting the tire or the gray hinge that like a lot of this is connected to. There's a notch there. Some people have made that notch bigger and cut into that a bit. You don't need to do either of that, at least hopefully. Maybe you will still have to, but I'm going to give you an option of how to do this that hopefully will work much better. But before we get to that, let's deal with the legs first. So we're going to come down here, and the legs are really quite simple, as you can tell from underneath here, because this is the thigh and this is the knee up here and this is the leg, right? So we're going to take the wings up off the shoulders, and in essence we're going to start to bring the legs down. You will hit a problem when you get to right here, because the gray inner thigh or hip piece, that needs to absolutely go brought down. So what I do is I take the whole leg from here and I fold it all down and then straighten it out, right? So up here, I will take the whole leg, fold it down, and then straighten it out. Nice kind of soft ratchets there. Then I'm going to take this wing and fold it to the back and up. There's a little rectangular nub, I guess nub there, and a slot on the wing that comes up, and it actually does go in there quite solidly. And we're going to straighten out a toe, and we're just going to turn the leg that way for now. Same thing over here. We're going to take this wing, bring it back, bring it up, make sure it's tabbed in, bring this out, and do that with the legs. Okay, next we're going to, actually, I'm going to do this I think next. We're going to pick these pieces off the nose cone and bring them all the way up, thusly. And we're going to take these arms and we're going to bring them up. When you bring the arms up, you should note that you extend the elbows out, you rotate the hands out, and then back here there's another panel that comes up to close into the wrist. The wrist has a rectangular slot on it, the panel has a rectangular peg on it, so when you line it up, though I'm not lining it up quite right there at the moment, there we go, it should go in no problem. Same over here, no problem. And I'm even going to take these out of the way. Now, this is where things get very, very interesting. We're going to split all of this. And in essence, what's happening now is you're seeing the chest of our guy here. I'm going to turn this to the side and bring it up like this. I'm going to readjust the camera so that we can deal with the upper body next, because the upper body is a little bit wild and bonkers, but the lower body, extending those legs, turning those hips, done. Now I have to give a huge shout out to Jay, the reviewer. He is who I referenced for this. If you've seen that little update from him, then hey, you will already kind of know this trick. If you haven't, then I'll show you now, and a big thank you to him for showing all of us. So right here we're seeing the back of the, I guess the body of Skyquake, and I'm going to take all of this and begin to swing it down, because it needs to swing around to what will become his back eventually. Same here, it swings down around. Now, you may notice that we have an armature here, an armature here, and we have another armature here. These two here eventually will come up on the side of essentially the whole kind of nose cone piece and tab in. There is a place where they tab in. If yours isn't transformed correctly, it won't tab in correctly. It's as simple as that. And the instructions will tell you to take the tip of the nose cone here and fold it down, and then fold the whole thing down. If you do that, you're going to have a problem. A number of problems, actually. But let's see if I can show this. I got to kind of try and get his shoulders out of the way. So the very first thing to note to do is, instead of just bringing down the nose piece, bring down the whole thing behind his head. When you bring it down, there's a gray armature in here. All of this open space should go pushed down over that gray armature. All that needs to be pushed down over that gray armature, or this won't work. Once you have that pushed down over that gray armature, now you can fold this up. But it's not just a matter of folding it up. You got to, once you do it, really kind of push it to the point of being a little bit uncomfortable. Because it needs to be straight. I'm going to bring that up like that. Is that in? Is it in? Is it in? Is it in? I'll bring those forward. Now I think I have it in, but we're about to find out. And here's how we're going to find out. One, I'm going to turn this like this, and this whole nose cone should now lock into a position there. Two, I should be able to bring these up on the side, and they should lock in right there. See if I can show this. There's a slot right there. This has a little peg on the inside. It should come up and go in to that slot there. Did it do it? Did it do the thing? Yeah, I think it did. Same over here. It needs to come up and go into that slot. Okay, next, this cockpit section here will need to stay out. These two sections here need to turn around. So we're going to take this one here and turn it around that way. And we're going to take this one here and turn it around that way. We're going to feed the cockpit section out under this here, or over that there, I should say. And then they go together in there. Outside, these two sections that we just turned around now they too can go together. So in essence, what you end up having is the, I guess, canopy of the cockpit is right here. These two sections are now tabbed together, and these two sections are together underneath. This is tabbed into the waist, and each of these sections now are tabbed up. Can I get this out of the way? Are tabbed up right here. Why is all of that important? All of that's important because now you're going to bring this arm back and you're going to bring it down, and it doesn't go, oh, that one came out. When you bring it back now, it shouldn't go all the way into the body. We bring this shoulder piece out over, and this one comes down, and we bring this shoulder piece out over. I'm going to bring those wings forward. I like to kind of turn those tips. Everything looks good there. Everything looks good there. My arms are no longer going back into the body, but we'll talk about that with our articulation. And in the end, boom, here we have Skyquake in his robot mode. Very important that you bring the whole canopy back, the whole thing, and then fold the tip down. Also, very important that you feed this section out over these two pieces and behind these two pieces. It should be stuck off of the body a little bit. Very important that you ensure that you have the pegs on the side pegged in. When you do all that, he's super solid. I'm going to tell you now, transformation, when done correctly, with no cutting, no shaving, is a 10. Just out of interest's sake, this is the way the back should basically look. You might even be able to squeeze this in a little bit more if you really want to, but as you can see, this whole hinge is in between these, right? That needs to be done for this to work. And here we have Skyquake, of course, in his robot mode, next to the Transformers Prime War Breakdown, and something more modern with Legacy Needle Nose. And yeah, this guy is a leader class, so he's obviously going to be bigger. Traditionally, a Voyager has 145 to 165 grams of plastic. A leader has about 315 to 325. This guy sadly comes in at only 213 grams of plastic. Now, normally that's a big deal to me. I also got this guy for $10 cheaper than what a leader class typically goes for here. So I paid a little less for it. Now, in this case, I'll say there's more mass here than a Voyager for sure. But I'm not angry that we give up some mass here. I feel like the engineering is kind of wild on this guy. Very explicit, a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts. For example, I love Studio Series 86 Grimlock, but his engineering is very intuitive, very straightforward, very simple compared to the engineering here. Still brilliant, but the engineering here is just, there's more to it. As I pointed out with the transformation, you know, you have to be very specific with the hips. They don't just come down, you have to rotate them down. We have the panel on the inside of the arm that covers the forearm, so that there's no hollowness. We know a lot of times we get hollowness. Not with this guy. Even like if you lift his arm here, like the whole body is filled in and solid really. It looks so good. There's no hollowness here. So I think that like, though we give up a lot of mass, I think they literally pulled up the stops on every single other bell and whistle, right down to the paint being, you know, the light green here and the gunmetal gray and the red and the green and the silver, and then like everything in here, all of this is paint, all the red. So I think we get a lot of value otherwise. Would it have been nice to have more mass? Absolutely. Do I think that we could have had it? For sure, especially with the accessory. But I'm not angry about this, which surprises me, because normally I would be. 10 for the transformation. In terms of the look for the guy, granted the chest hair is very G1, Skyquake-ish, but really all the limbs and the head is quintessentially Transformers Prime. The only imperfection really is the fact that the cockpit isn't the chest, though to be fair, behind this translucent piece the nose cone is in there, so it's still kind of the torso and the chest. And I wish that these pieces right here that are pointed up were pointed down, as they should be in Transformers Prime. This is a little more Seeker-ish, but I'm okay with it. I'm not angry about it. Starting from the feet, working our way up, the gray is accurate, the green is accurate, the gray is accurate, the bit of silver here is accurate, the green is accurate, the green and gray on the torso and hips, accurate. All of that accurate, right down to the little wing detail right here, accurate. The torso, while the shape is G1, the dark green, highlighted by the more light mint green, is also accurate. The orange, accurate. The Decepticon symbol, accurate. The shoulder pieces and these kind of wings up here, accurate. The silver out here, accurate, though some might say that it's not silver, it's this same light green. That might be up for debate. The forearms being green, the bicep and the hand being gray, accurate. The red, accurate. The light or silver detail up right here is accurate. The head, really accurate. Yes, he has a nose because he's G1ified, but the crest comes down over it, so you don't really notice it, and the thin mouth is very Transformers Prime. The head is a very Transformers Prime head. More than RC, more than Knockout. They nailed the head really, really nicely here. I look at this and I think Transformers Prime Skyquake. I'm going to easily give it a 9. I want to give it a 9.5, but I have to acknowledge how G1ified the torso is, right? So I'm going to say a 9. You mix that with the 10 for the transformation, that's a 9.5. The guy is tremendous. What about the articulation? Well, let's do that now. The head goes left, right, up, down. These whole shoulder pieces can move up and out of the way and do it all, so that the arm can go all the way around, out to the side. We do have across the body, which is really a butterfly. Because the transformation is done correctly, this does not go into the body, it just comes up solid, as it should. We do have a tight bicep swivel. We have a quite deep elbow bend. We have a wrist rotation as well. No articulated fingers. That would have been nice, but not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. Waist, very free flowing, can go all the way around, by the way. Legs back, legs forward. Very deep knee, even with this piece back here filling in the back of the leg. Double hinged knee, really. I think double hinged elbow too. All the way out to the side. Little bit of an ankle tilt. Not a lot, but it's effective enough. I do wish that we had a bit more of a heel spur, but I'm not angry about it. I'm really, really not. The guy is generally quite solid. If I had to nitpick, I suppose articulated fingers would be nice, I guess, if I'm nitpicking, but honestly, that's a heck of a nitpick, man. I'm going to say 10 for the articulation. Dude can do it all and pull it all off. Overall score for Skyquake, the guy got to come in at a 9.5 to a 9.75. But, in order for that to be the case, you have to nail the transformation accurately and correctly and follow that order of operations. If you do that, everything with this guy is buttery smooth. Now, if you attempt that transformation and do it in the order that I said, if you make sure that you have this hinge between these two pieces, like in kind of as far as you can go, you have this pushed all the way down. If you have, these like tabbed into where they're supposed to tab into. If you got all of that done, it's brilliant. If you try to do it the way I've said it and you can't get some of those steps done, well, then maybe you will have to shave something down, which is unfortunate and a bit of a bummer. But I think some people have jumped to doing that before putting in the elbow grease to really learn how this guy moves. And if you put in a little bit of elbow grease to learn how this guy moves, you're going to end up with a Transformer that, as far as I can tell, clocks in at a solid 9.75. And here we are once again, and here he is. So first things first, let's get the issue with the mass out of the way. So yeah, the guy is small. I mean, clocking in at really kind of a paltry 213 grams. And normally I would be the first one to really obliterate the guy for it. I would. But that being said, I also realize that sometimes we give up some mass because we do get other things, as I talked about with the depth of the engineering for this guy. It is deeper engineering here than we've had, for example, with Grimlock. Now, arguably, we could have had more mass here by way of a better accessory. Arguably, we probably could have had the guy slightly bigger, but I think that would have been at a scale. Here's the thing. When it comes to the actual engineering and the core of the guy, I don't think that there was really anything else that we could add here because he's filled in. He's actually very, very solid. I do think that we get a fair amount of paint, which is nice, but more importantly, I think that the real kind of added value here, so we're trading off a significant amount of mass, and I think for that we have really zero hollowness. We have really involved engineering, like to swing these wings to the back. I mean, you have to have his hips sideways and stuff. The armatures come around. When I talk about the paint, I mean all in here, all paint. So there's, you know, these highlights, the silver, right? So like there's a fair amount. Then we get to the transformation itself, which I think the engineering is brilliant on. And it's very, very important. I don't know how well you were able to see it in there. Again, huge shout out again to Jay the reviewer for really showing it. But the whole canopy section, say, that covers his head, bring all of that back first, then fold in the nose cone and kind of push it past the point that it really feels, I don't want to say safe to do so, but you're probably going to feel a little bit nervous about it. Don't worry, it will push past it, and you'll have this little piece right here, this little gunmetal gray piece that was up in the cockpit with the cockpit detail. It'll come down. The big trick then is to make sure that you kind of have a 90-degree, see if I can get, let's get this out of the way. The trick then really is to kind of, yeah, see if you can get like a 90-degree here where it tabs in at the waist, and then that should line you up for success of putting this rectangular peg, horizontal rectangular peg, into the peg slot. It should fit very nicely, and then when you push this back, like it doesn't go in the body, right? It comes up solid there, which is, I love it. I think that that's wonderful because it gives you the butterfly hinge forward, but at the same time it feels more solid going back, right? The other trick is when you lock everything together, the actual canopy piece here needs to come out over both of these wings, but go under these two like inner pieces, so to speak, which I tried to show in the transformation. I hope that that was successful, and I hope it helps you out. If you do that order of operations, then it'll be tight, but you shouldn't have to cut anything. I didn't have to. If you try that and you still feel like you need to cut something, that is a viable option. You can certainly sand down or shave off some of the landing gear or the gray notch here. The other thing to note is to make sure that you have it all done right is not only bring the whole nose cone back, but push it down behind his head so that a lot of this space up here is in fact filled in. Because the tighter that this canopy is, the better the lock of the entire body. I think the coloration and the molding on the guy is second to none. I think the paint is great. I think the engineering is stupendous, and I think that the articulation is fantastic with an excellent range of motion, even going so far as to have details like the double knee being fully molded. This is kind of like Tarn. We give up mass, more mass than I'm comfortable giving up. More mass than I would accept with Siege, Shockwave, or Astro Train, for example. But I think that they went out of their way to give all of the bells and whistles possible to make this as strong of an offering as possible. Does not hurt the cause that I got this guy for $10 less than what a typical leader class goes for in my neck of the woods. So for $10 less, I think he's acceptable for the trade-off of mass for everything else that you get. Very strong offering. I would not pass him over whether you get this version or wait to get some reuse of it. As, I don't know, something like Megaplex as the original Voyager one was used for, or something like the original G1 version of Skyquake, or even Machine Wars Starscream. It's a great mold that I think most fans should try to at least get one copy of. Will there be more than this? I mean, he could be Dreadwing too. Will there be more? He could be G2 Dreadwing. There's a lot that we could do with this mold, and it will be interesting to see if and how it gets adapted. But for this guy, for Skyquake, he is pretty spectacular. Let me know your thoughts about this guy. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you are in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. Please hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and especially remember that somehow, someway, each and every single solitary day, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, right here, inside the videos.